Good afternoon, everybody. Aquatic here with a real report. First off, I want to say thank you guys so much for the continued support. We're now up to 125 subscribers, and I've got at least a dozen viewers in Croatia. So shout out to you guys across the pond for being the 8th country that has subscribed to my channel. So very cool to see. Also, we're at 4,500 views and almost 300 watch hours. So we're chugging right along. Make sure and share with friends, family, like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. All right, hopping into today's report, we're going to go over Ukraine, Russia, and also a little bit on energy, Britain's crisis for this winter, and a quick thing on Neo EV charging stations going dark as China rations power. So, hopping into this first article, Putin orders expansion of military forces as Ukraine war enters the 7th month. Russia is set up to ramp the size of its armed forces from 1.9 to 2.04 million as the war in Ukraine intensifies. The increase includes 137,000 boost in the number of combat personnel, which will come into effect on January 1st. So not too far away. Ukraine says it has killed or wounded at least 45,000 Russian troops since the beginning of the war, which I'm going to contradict that number with the United States CIA director saying their estimates are about 15,000 killed in action. Both staggering, but of course people overestimate, especially for PR reasons. So I would say it's definitely at least half that number coming out of Ukraine. And like I said, CIA says 15K, so we'll go with that. Russia says 200 Ukrainian forces killed in a rocket strike. That's from the Ministry of Defense. Talking about more HIMARS. Russia says they destroyed another ammunition depot in Ukraine's Odessa, hits 2 howitzers in the Kherson region. The depot housed Western-made anti-aircraft systems, including rockets for U.S.-made high-mobility artillery rocket systems, or the HIMARS. Meanwhile, the United Nations Rights Agency called on Putin to stop its forces from attacking Ukrainians. The airstrikes create unimaginably terrifying impact on civilians, the agency says. More worthless posturing from the UN. 14 Russian warships enter the Sea of Japan ahead of major military exercise. This one's interesting as they ramp up their patrols with China, essentially in a joint trip around Japan, Taiwan. A group of 14 Russian Navy ships transited through the strait from the Western Pacific Ocean into the Sea of Japan ahead of Russian military drills scheduled to start next week, the Japan Ministry of Defense said on Monday. The dangerous depletion of U.S. weapons arsenals. This one's a really important thing here from the U.S. Naval Institute. We have discussed this in a previous video, but the United States' stockpile of weapons is severely depleted. We have sent an unimaginable number of irreplaceable missiles, equipment, weapons, etc. to Ukraine to fight this proxy war. And frankly, our industrial production is not what it used to be and is incapable of restocking the depleted supplies. We don't have the capacity, we don't have the parts, we don't have the chips, the materials, etc., which is a very big problem if we get into a conflict. Here out of the article, many articles highlight the Department of Defense's concerns over the estimated 3-year industry production delay associated with replacing weapons provided to Ukraine. 3 years. 3 years to replace some of this stuff. It's not going to happen. 2 leading causes to the industry production delay are ongoing supply chain issues and workforce shortages. Quick note on that, I did a video that I'll link at the end of this one a couple weeks ago about the quartz sand being halted from China exporting to Taiwan. Taiwan's the biggest chip manufacturer on the planet with the TSMC. And if you can't get the chips, well, a lot of our missile systems and computerized stuff obviously require semiconductors and chips, even if it's just the dollar ones. And Lockheed Martin has stated we can't even manufacture some of the javelins and stingers for years because they have to fundamentally redesign the entire weapon system that isn't going to rely on the chips we can no longer get. So this is very significant. Naval Surface Warfare Center, Indian Head Division, is the Navy's only arsenal and the nation's only remaining full-spectrum all-domain energetics center. Energetics include the explosives and propellants that give modern munitions their capabilities and lethality. The arsenal atrophy started actually in the 90s, peace dividend following the Cold War, the adoption of Working Capital Fund, or the WCF model, and the subsequent elimination of underutilized plant capacity, UPC. Funding all contributed to arsenal atrophy. It's required a proficient workforce that understands energetic safety at every level, skilled inspectors to ensure designs are properly fabricated, and a knowledgeable workforce to run the plants, all of which people from layoffs to quitting to just downsizing, you can't replace these things required overnight. At its peak in the 70s, NSWC did everything energetics from basic research and development, engineering, limited manufacturing, sustainment, and demilitarization, disposal of energetics and energetic material systems. For example, primers, propellants, rocket motors, explosives, fuses, and the myriad of cartridge and propellant actuated devices. Those are vital to our aircraft safety systems. I need another cup of coffee, I guess, but not at the rate and proficiency it once did, especially when it comes to surge manufacturing. These critical supply and manufacturing issues are only recently becoming visible at the prime level, in a large part because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The extent of U.S. weapons depletion to supply Ukraine is classified, but various defense analysts estimate that significant percentages of the U.S. strategic stockpiles of various weapons are depleted. While the primes report it will take up to 2 years to manufacture a production run of certain missiles provided to Ukraine. So, minimum 2, most likely 3, and considering the current supply chain, probably longer. None of those situations are good for us. Now, actions to implement these recommendations remain at a standstill. They're talking about trying to replenish them and get things up and going. On the flip side, from the Navy, the Army recognized similar challenges with their arsenals over the past decade and already began to address its shortfalls, so hopefully they can pick up some of the slack. They reestablished its ability to meet the surge manufacturing requirements for mobilization and munitions replenishment. So, interesting thoughts here. Again, we're hosed. Vast nuclear plant held by Russia disconnects from Ukraine's grid. Now, part of it was reconnected today, but there's 6 stations, and I believe only one of them is back online supplying the Ukraine power grid. If that shuts off this winter, well, considering no heat, unless you have a wood stove and you've already got some seasoned firewood, or you can get access to coal stoves, it's going to be a very cold, very deadly winter for a lot of Europe, especially Ukraine. Again, that's Europe's largest nuclear facility that is now under Russia's control since about March. Here we go. All 6 of the plant's reactors are not supplying energy to the Ukrainian grid, and we still need to figure out which one came back online today. The nuclear plant supplied over 20% of Ukraine's electricity needs before the war, and its loss would pile new strain on the government, which is already bracing for a difficult wartime winter of potentially crippling energy shortages. Well, they're not alone, given that Germany, France, the UK especially, are all in similar boats. Hopping down into the article, energy official who declined to be identified told Reuters that 2 reactors had been disconnected were in fact already being powered by Soviet-era diesel generators. A spokesperson for the company denied that was the case. However, Russia and Ukraine have accused each other of shelling the site, fueling international fears of the potential for a disastrous nuclear accident. Again, we covered that in a previous video. Europe plunged into nuclear panic as continent's biggest power plant disconnects from the grid. Down here, following reports of blackouts across the Russian-occupied Zaporizhia and Kherson regions. I believe they said this one is, yeah, here we go, much larger than Chernobyl. Express UK said a severe accident, such as a reactor meltdown, could affect huge areas of the EU within hours, including Poland, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and other nations. A radioactive plume could reach as far as Turkey. Over here from Press TV, Senator Marsha Blackburn arrives in Taiwan, escalating tensions with China. Classic. More poking the bear, poking China We cannot fight a proxy war after I just showed you this article about our dangerous depletion of U.S. weapon arsenals. We can't fight both supplying the Taiwan army and Ukrainians. It's not possible. These three charts show the scale of the extreme energy crisis in Europe, where electricity prices have surged 1,000% above normal levels. Imagine your energy bill for electric or heating going up 1,000%. It's coming. Here we go. Europe is in the grip of an energy crisis, with Russia squeezing natural gas supplies as tensions run high over Ukraine. Natural gas and electricity prices are trading more than 1,000% higher than the levels seen in the 2010 to 2020 decade. Fears that the energy crisis will trigger a deep recession have pushed the euro to its lowest level in 20 years. Here's European natural gas prices skyrocketing just this year. European electricity prices also soaring. Also German year ahead, baseload power. And final chart, euro dropping to its 20-year low. Last two articles, and then we're going to wrap up this video and do a second feature for today. So Britain doubles its domestic energy price cap. Britain announced Friday a vast 80% hike in electricity and gas bills in a dramatic worsening of the cost of living crisis before winter as the UK awaits a new leader. Again, guys, 80% hike in electricity and gas bills. That is unfathomable for a lot of families. They're going to have to decide between food and heat. I just want that to sink in. Half of the UK households will be in fuel poverty by this coming January. It's only 4 months away, folks. As many as half of British households may be facing fuel poverty because of the inexorable rise in energy prices. EDF, the French utility that has business in the UK, is warning. When you look at the figures, more than half of UK households will be in fuel poverty in January, meaning they will have to spend more than 10% of their disposable income on their energy bill. Try triple that. The UK's energy market regulator is set to announce the latest energy price cap this week, which will see electricity bills for millions of Britons rise considerably. In April, the cap was raised by more than 50%, doubling the number of fuel-stressed households overnight in the UK. But they haven't seen the worst of it yet. Its cost of living crisis, as energy bills are expected to soar another 42% in October, when the energy regulator will raise the energy price cap again. Hear this number, with the latest forecast seeing bills topping £6,500 annually for millions of households next year, all because of higher natural gas prices. This is equivalent to about $7,600 per year. That is mind-boggling. And lastly, Neo EV charging stations go dark as China rations power. This is coming to Europe, guys. The sprawling municipality of Chengdu in Sichuan province and nearby Chongqing, all located in southwestern China, were scorching heat waves and lack of rainfall slashed by hydropower generation, resulting in weeks of power rationing at some of the largest factories in the country. You guys notice that trend, that thing 2 years ago that shut down the world? Well, they've been throttling with their zero tolerance policy for cases and shutting factories down, making people sleep at them, and essentially shut down global shipping, global manufacturing, and you wonder why the supply chain crunch is only going to get worse. Well, here you go. Now it's no longer the vid, it's they don't have the power for the factories. Anyway, have reportedly spread to EV charging stations as well. Looks like you should keep your gas vehicle. I don't have the article pulled up now, but go take a look at California banning new gas vehicles. So, yeah, this isn't just third world, second world, first world. It's a global problem. Dump your Tesla now. Anyway, combined 46 million people are affected. Power's been turned off because the power conservation measures, leaving drivers unable to charge their EVs. The NIO's charging app informed owners that some of its Chengdu battery swap stations are offline this week because of severe overload on the grid under the persistent high temperatures. It's not just that. The power grid can't handle 10,000 people, let alone 100 people plugging in the equivalent of a welder simultaneously. Same problem they have in the US. Heck, parts of the country don't even have fiber optic yet. Go look at the Rockies, or the, well, any kind of rural town. Imagine that. Imagine telling someone in West Virginia, yeah, go charge your Tesla on a 80-year-old transformer. You think your power dims when you turn your washer on? Just wait. The crux of the electricity shortage in the province is that it relies on hydropower for 82% of its power generation and is experiencing the worst drought in decades as triple digit temperatures and lack of rainfall reduce water levels in main reservoirs. The impacts have also led to power cuts from manufacturers, including Toyota and battery producer contemporary Amperex technology, which have shuttered operations. With an unstable power grid, China's race to electrify its future with EVs will be challenging. The only way for a stable grid is nuclear power, which we see countries like Germany are unwilling to accept. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this report. We're going to do another one because we have a lot to cover in the Middle East and Europe. So stay tuned for that later. We're also going to touch base on the rampant rise in crime